Right? What do you?
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
Hey, we're now live on another episode of the Indie Creator Spotlight, powered by the Dorkening Podcast Network. And we're talking about an awesome movie out March 12th called No Fear. And with us, as always, Patsy. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing all right, Leo. How are you today?
Doing great. Excited to talk about this movie.
I am, especially like we talked about a little bit off air. There's one specific thing that really stood out to me, and I can't wait to find out who it was that came up with including that in the film.
Awesome. And Philip from Dark Discussions Podcast Network. How's it going, my friend?
Good, Leo. How are you? I'm doing all right myself.
And very, very special guests. We have Tim Jones and Eiley Jones. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Doing fine. And Patsy, would you like to introduce our awesome guests?
I would. As Leo said, we are welcoming a couple of folks responsible for the movie No Fear, which comes out later this year, as Leo said. We got the chance to check that out a little early, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. But we are joined today by the writing-directing team of JAMISON M.LOCASCIO and Adam Ambrosio. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Great. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, doing good.
I'm really hoping I said your names correctly, because that was something.
That sounded right. That sounded good, actually. Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm gonna start off with the burning question that I have.
Oh wow, yeah, I'm ready.
That we discussed a little bit off air. Whose brainchild was it to include the Carl Sagan reference?
Oh, this is a great story, actually. That's okay. Well, wow. Where do I begin? How much time you got? Basically, what happened was Adam and I were doing a part-time job, because we've been making films together for years, but we also have done some part-time jobs in between and, getting movies off the ground. But we actually were both axe throwing instructors at this place, which I guess will not be named. No. But basically, I had a guy who was who I was showing how to throw axes, as ridiculous as that seems that I would do, but that's what we did, who was basically explaining to me all this great stuff about how much he loved his job and how he loved teaching about science and everything he was teaching about. And he actually gave me almost verbatim that pale blue dot speech. And at the time, I really, I have to admit, I didn't want to be bothered. I wasn't mean to him, of course, but I just, I was kind of thinking about a lot of other stuff and maybe getting this movie off the ground. And I was nice to him, but I didn't think about it. And we were writing the script for so long that I think about a week and a half later, we were just talking about expanding things and everything else. And I said, oh my God, I just had this guy who I probably should have listened to more so because he was telling me like the most incredible thing ever. But I think we should put that in this. And it was just a really weird, like you just have to pay attention to life sometimes type of deal. And he gave me that exact speech about, the fact that things are not quite the way they, appear, or they're maybe not as big, that whole thing. And it was just it was just a beautiful natural thing that seemed like a good way to expand Donald's character and make him a little bit more likable, I guess was really the thing.
Yeah, it's all about putting things in perspective. Have you ever seen the picture, the pale blue dot picture?
No.
It is, as I forget which Voyager probe, but I think it's Voyager 2. As Voyager 2 is leaving the solar system, they had it turned and they took a picture of Earth, and all you see is this tiny little dot, and there's an arrow pointing like, this is you. And then
there you go.
The whole quote from Carl Sagan.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you want to start on that note, and we're getting into dorky, cool stuff, we definitely tried. This was like our, shot at making a horror movie. So we put a lot of, I think, dorky but cool stuff, and a lot of it was based on, actually, really, Adam was the one that introduced me to everything to do with horror. So we can really talk about that, I guess, as we get to it. But yeah, I mean, what was I going to say? Basically, this stuff all came through because of, I just blanked out on what I was saying.
Just how we started this movie.
Oh God, yeah. So how we put it together was based on Lovecraft, and we really came to it from that direction, and we were thinking a lot about space and things like that. And so we were trying to find ways to fit that in. That's exactly what I was going with this. And that seemed like a natural thing then suddenly to put in there. And we had never really seen that used before, but a very interesting kind of dorky thing is we took that whole speech that he gives and we found little pieces of words, and a lot of those from that entire piece that he says, about endless cruelties and everything else, those actually come straight from the language in that. And that's actually throughout the movie. And there was a little bit more of it, but we, cut it out. But that's kind of a fun, dorky thing. Other characters wind up saying it. So it's kind of like I guess it's a bit of a theme throughout the whole movie that winds up just, we got lucky with, I guess, was an interesting idea.
I think it makes sense, especially when you're dealing with Lovecraft and cosmic horrors. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of think about this stuff on, a celestial scale.
Yeah, exactly. Just seemed like a natural thing. And, I didn't know much about Lovecraft. And, we have a whole funny story about how we came about making this movie. I don't know if we want to go down that road now. But, what even gave us that idea was, we saw a horror movie that we didn't totally respond to. We probably shouldn't say which one. And we could, but no, we're not going to. Okay, no, we could. But basically, we just happened to see it with our friend Matt, who, shout out to Matt if he's watching. And basically, I turned to him and said, if this is a horror movie, or this is the horror genre where it's going, I just don't respond to this. I could never see myself making one. So Adam turned to me and said, no, I'm going to show you every horror movie that you can possibly, just like, don't worry, I got you covered. And he showed me everything. Like, I'm not even kidding you guys. Like, we watched like hundreds of movies. And I went from like not being a horror fan to being like, I have Evil Dead things that I drew and painted on my wall all over the place, and that's like one of my favorites. So really, we got to thank this guy because I would have never, and then he turned me on to Lovecraft, and that wound up being, and Hellraiser, which was important. In the Mouth of Madness was really important. So in terms of all the horror stuff, all of that really came from him, this guy here, and trying to be like, I'm going to show you what's so great about horror. I don't know if you want to expand on that.
I mean, we started out even before we started doing like the horror movies, the horror movie. We did a lot of shorts. We made 2 other features before that.
Mm-hmm.
And as he said, he was, when we saw this one movie in theaters, he was really turned off to it. And I was like, well, we've come so far. And now my business partner and friend is telling me pretty much that he doesn't want to do a horror movie in his entire life.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it was that extreme.
It was that extreme because we had a violent reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't like it. But and so I felt like, wow, if I have to go with our careers and not do a horror movie, I'm gonna go crazy. And it's you know, it probably would have led to fights or something, or eventually,
yeah, maybe,
you know,
right,
but you know, I think what we did was, you know, was just as Jameson said, is I showed him a few movies to start out with, and then it led to even more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And I think actually Carpenter was something he really gravitated to.
Yeah, John Carpenter.
I mean, that was really the catalyst of like he's starting to get it.
Yeah.
And before you know it, now he watches horror movies repeatedly. I think every time I go into his room or whatever, or I meet him, he always has Evil Dead on.
Evil Dead 2
Evil
specifically.
Dead 2. You know, and then, you know, seeing his room, it's
yeah, it's getting ridiculous now.
I've created a monster.
I have action figures at this point. Yeah. I have action figures.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, you know how young you are, man, and how old I am? I saw Evil Dead 2 at the theaters. That's how old I am.
Oh, yeah. See, that's awesome.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Well, first off, I wanted to say for a no-budget film, this movie is awesome, dude. You guys did a fantastic job. This is easily the best horror film I've seen so far in 2021. And had it been released last year, it would have been on my top 10 for sure. This is a really good film. It's very suspenseful. You have the right characters. The actors were great picks, and the way you two wrote the characters, because I didn't hate them. Usually in horror films, as you probably know, you just want them all to die as a hell. But I liked all these characters, and you know, like putting the blue dot in to make us like the uncle and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic how you guys wrote it. Now, let's talk about how you got this off the ground. I mean, obviously you guys been doing this for about 10 years now, shorts and things like that. But this is a feature-length film with some quality actors and an absolutely phenomenal script. Tell us a little about it. I mean, actually, before we do, let me even read the IMDb because no one knows what this film's about, because I don't think we even mentioned it yet, right? So it's called No Fear, and the IMDb, which I kind of don't like because it gives away stuff, but I didn't see the trailer. The trailer may too. I went in completely blind. So this is what it says. It says, after the possession of his wife, Donald Capel and his family activate a dangerous ritual in a book used to identify and banish demons. A ritual forcing each member of the family to communicate with the demon in their own unique way, to see it, hear it, or speak to it. So this is where we get, the Evil Dead stuff and the Carpenter and the Lovecraft stuff. So go ahead and start explaining, how did you get this off the ground?
Well, actually, before he goes into that, does that synopsis work well for you, or would you revise that?
Yeah, no, that's right. That's about right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell you what, let's play the trailer, and then when we come back, we'll come back to the question.
Oh, cool.
Okay, here we go.
Nice place.
Thanks. You want to help us move some boxes?
Yeah, sure.
It's like it's written in code. Read incantation. Did you hear that? Scratching in the walls. I heard it in this house. Right behind you. What the hell is going on?
My Aunt Wendy found this book in the basement.
Look, the ritual allows you to identify the demon using these abilities. 3 senses divided to 3 people. 1 person to see the demon, another person to hear the demon, and another to speak the demon's language. I have this terrible feeling like we're being watched.
I'm hearing things you guys can't.
I see something.
This whole house gives me the creeps.
Right there.
You can't possibly believe that any of this is real.
Of course I do.
Where's Jamie?
Videre. Audite. Dicere. Do it now!
Jamie.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so how'd you guys get this film off the ground?
Well, I guess really Adam should speak to this as the producer because he was an incredible producer.
To tell you the truth, we had a lot of followers, really, you know, a lot of friends, actually, just, you know, a lot of good friends that helped us on our, you know, previous movies. And, you know, some of them we were working with at the time on you know, different jobs or whatever. And we asked them to, you know, help us out. And James put a great package together, actually, of, you know, of just, you know, some storyline parts and, you know, really making a lookbook of what we wanted.
Yeah.
And we just delivered that. I mean, there was so many times we would just, you know, meet friends and family at a diner and, you know, just, you know, talk to them about the movie with this big lookbook, like this big.
Yeah.
And just develop it, you know. And I think it was after we really just watched a lot of horror movies that we just kind of developed it that way in terms of
and then we knew what to sort of tap into. And I think actually, funny enough, we had a good friend of ours who had nothing to do with filmmaking, who actually approached us and said, if you guys are this is weird, but again, it's coincidence, I guess, maybe destiny, I don't know. But a guy turned around to us and just said, if you guys happen to be making a horror movie, I want to help you finance it. And he actually would put money down, said, here we go, let's go.
And he was the first
And it was
guy.
like, we didn't even ask him. So it was just the weirdest thing. It was kind of like, but we were definitely looking at like the Sam Raimi, you know, Bruce Campbell, Robert Tapper, like, okay, how do these guys do that? And we kind of followed their whole thing, you know, like, okay, how do they do it? And some of the hardest times, it was nice to kind of listen to their story, you know, because Evil Dead really was one of the things that truly inspired us and throughout. And we really had not a similar journey in how they shot it, because that was crazy, but, you know, and how they put it together. We just went to people and got a little bit at a time. And some of them were Indiegogo, but they were all investors and, you know, they had a stake in it and they just believed in us to do it. And it helped that we had a track record. Our movies have all been distributed before. I mean, they've gotten good reviews and they've won awards actually, which has been great. And like you said, we made a lot of short films. We never made a horror, so we were a little untested in that way.
Yeah.
And I certainly felt I had a tremendous amount to prove. I mean, there was no, like, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't an imposter here, and that was hard. But you know, he really helped guide that. And the script we just worked on for the longest time, and people seem to really respond to that. And the idea, I think it was high concept, which was, you know, probably the key to getting anything off the ground is that, it sounds like it could make money, I guess. So here you go, you know, which is better than, you know, we're making a drama about these two guys.
Yeah. I mean, and also with our first feature film, you know, the budget was very similar to, you know, No Fear. So we've done it before. You know, with our first feature film, The Depths, it was probably just as much as No Fear, but then we went and did Sunset, which was completely a lot smaller.
About a $15,000 budget, which is nothing.
Yeah.
And I did the sound. Adam did the slate. You know, so it was a 4-person crew on that movie. So we're used to, like, you know, how do you make something with nothing? You know, and this one we did that, but then it almost was like having an abundance because we had an actual budget, sort of. You know, so you know.
What made you guys? Because a lot of indie filmmakers that do horror, they start with something like a slasher or a zombie or a found footage, because those are fairly cheap to make. But you guys went out of the box and decided to do something completely different than I've ever seen for a really good indie horror film. Is it specifically because when you guys were looking at like Evil Dead and stuff like that you said, all right, we want to do something that doesn't have the teenagers or the zombies or the found footage. We want to do something that was more unique?
Well, let Jameson tell you how we got the names for the characters, and it'll pretty much explain, what movie really set us off.
Halloween was a huge key, and you'll notice that all the characters' names are named after the actors in Halloween. So, Donald and Jamie and all of them. So that was our love for it. But to be honest, the mode that I finally sort of got it. I was like, okay, I understand what all of this is about and what this community is about when I saw Halloween. Something about Donald Pleasance really sold that for me. And I was like, okay, I get it. I understand this. This is what I should do. And so, yeah, I think, in terms of your question too, we also had a good friend of ours, again, like some of these fate kind of things happening, that gave us a book that was Zoroastrianism, which I think, saying that.
Oh, yeah.
And we opened
from the Middle East, the religion.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and we opened to a random page, and it had something crazy in it about how your loved ones would like protect your body and your soul for a couple days before something, before they walked off into the next stage. And it was like, okay, that's a horror movie. So that kind of actually set us off, like that was really the start. And we just talked about it for a really long time over the course of watching like 300 horror movies. Like, okay, how can we make this something interesting? And we landed on, these characters, wouldn't it be interesting to have one of them be able to see the thing, one of them be able to hear the thing? And we really kind of sat and thought about that and built the plot really 100% around how can we make the best we can afford version of that plot line. What would I want? What would I demand as an audience from that plot line? Well, you got to have a scene where they're separated. You know what I mean? So that like became the answer. Oh, you got to have a scene where this happens, obviously. So then that became the plot.
That's awesome. Yeah, no. I mean, it was a smart move. I've been taking over. So yeah. PJ, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys mentioned that, you watch tons and tons and tons of horror movies. So Adam, you're trying to convince him that, you have to see these horror movies. I want to do horror movies. So you have a daunting task in front of you. What was the first and what were the first few horror movies that you showed to him to be like, hey, this is what horror can be and this is what low budget horror can be?
You knew exactly what to do. You know exactly what to do. Go ahead.
As I said before, Carpenter was pretty much one of the first ones. Raimi.
Forget it. John Carpenter was enough, to be honest with you, but then everything was,
Yeah. No, I showed him everything that I liked. I liked Halloween, In the Mouth of Madness, The Thing. I'm a big fan of 1970s horror. I like the Dunwich horror, with Sam Jaffe.
Maybe he wouldn't see it from the perspective of me learning everything he was teaching. So maybe it's easier if I answered this, but every one of those movies had a different lesson. And what was incredible about that, it was like, in Amityville, it's like, okay, well, what if we didn't show something, okay, that's obviously a lesson, and that is like, in your mind, you're calibrating hundreds of different movies to the right type of thing. And the one thing I did experience prior to this was watching The Conjuring 2013 in theaters. And that was by far the best audience response I ever saw in a theater, because people were yelling at the wrong times and the audience was laughing at them, yelling at the wrong times, and everybody was having a great time. So from his, teaching me about it, I learned every element of, how can you put this into here and how can you put this into here? And I'll just give you one, I think was amazing example of it. He told me, we need to figure out a lighting effect. And I think the key to the lighting effect is in the Mouth of Madness. And I didn't know what he meant. And believe it or not, it took me like 3 weeks. And I woke up before production. I was like, wait a second, this is what he means. And I went back and looked at In the Mouth of Madness. And that was completely how we designed the lighting for the creature in our film, the demon in our film, which was practical and was done with cookies and was done with real lighting in the room with smoke. And we did the whole 9 yards. But that's just an example of, how we took from those movies and really, I had felt an obligation to get that right, because it seemed like there was a whole world here I needed to understand and don't mess up. But yeah, that's what those movies did, 100%.
So just one more follow up to that. And I do have another question, if you could clarify something. Have you guys seen the film The Headhunter? Talking about low budget, very small crew. I think there was a crew of 5 people, including the actors. So the actors were also, folks behind the
Oh,
scenes.
no.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I would highly recommend it.
Oh, great! I would totally watch.
It has a very similar ending type theme as your film, without giving anything away.
All right.
But the term that you just used, if I hadn't worked on a film last year, which was also a Lovecraftian film, before everything kind of got shut down, I wouldn't know what the term cookie meant. If you could explain that to folks when it comes to lighting. And
well, basically, it's just I wish I even had it because it's so it's almost stupid actually with the amount of equipment and things that you use. But it's really just a piece of poster board. It's exactly how we did it, or flat board, and it just has these little holes in it cut out, and you can shoot a very, very hard source, not a soft source, hard lighting source through it. And if you have smoke, it creates beams and it creates these great effects. And it's like the most ridiculous, cheapest thing you can do, but it looks great. It really looks great. So
yeah, because I had no idea. They're like, oh yeah, grab those cookies. I'm like, cookies?
Yeah, I know, right?
In the kitchen?
With the milk.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know we were getting food too. Like, that's
Yeah, exactly. No, they'll never feed you on a film set. No. Yeah.
Like, this is the least appetizing cookie I've ever seen.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Eileen, do you have any questions? Because I know you've been sitting there, just waving your arms and being very obnoxious over there. So I'm sure you have some questions about getting the film made. As like we said, you just graduated. So
yes, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to
I'm being put on the spot.
Well, tell you what, I had a question, and then why don't you think about your question while they answer this one. Speaking of lighting, I just wanted to make note. First, like the practical effects are awesome, and whoever did sound design, the sound of the knife.
Oh, the sound design, yeah.
Oh my god!
Awesome,
but with Donald and Wendy, the scene that just sold it for me was Donald and Wendy are in a room. She's terrified, looking in one direction, and he starts to turn, and it's just blackness behind him coming out.
Oh yeah, that was an awesome scene, dude.
Right behind you.
That was great, dude. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that evoked, like, I'm sure all of us have some sort of memory where, like, as a kid, you're afraid to go in like the basement or something like that. Ours was the boiler room where you open the door and it's just pure blackness, but you need to go in there anyway. It's just invoking that type of childhood fear.
See, what I thought was the scene in The Exorcist when she closes the door and you see Eileen Dietz's face right behind the.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, thank you for seizing on that. It was that came all the way back 100% to the storyboarding, and it felt like it just was an idea that came, I guess, that we wanted to do. And I think in that moment specifically, it's an important transition point where even Donald's a little, thinking about it. And it's kind of I think a lot of the objectives we tried to make in this movie was to try to always put the character who was like most, could possibly be either the least qualified or the most qualified for a situation. Jamie was the one who was supposed to be qualified in the sense that she could fight the demons, but because she's getting frightened by, seeing things, maybe the audience doesn't feel so secure anymore with her being there. So we tried to play a lot of games like that, like even she's in over her head. And even over her head.
Yeah. Once the power goes off and all that, and then she comes in and says, "Oh, I started it without you."
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, so it seems like she's not under control, but that was
and it's another one.
The dummy in the basement too. With the sheet, dude. That was awesome.
With the mannequin we're talking about.
Yeah, the mannequin. Yeah, right. That was great.
That we didn't really have to do anything to that basement in terms of
it's scary.
That little doll, that doll you see just like kind of pinned there in between some,
that was actually there.
Stuff. That came as is. That came with the house.
That came with the house.
So when we saw the location, actually, we walked in and like the first 2 minutes of being there, we're like, yeah,
this is it.
This is the house.
So when Donald says, grab whatever you want, it came with the house. Actually, all the stuff was really there.
Yeah. Actually, it was all there. We just had some boxes in.
That's great.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about the props because I guess it goes without saying there's no props team on this movie. There was a costume person, and she wasn't on set pretty much the whole time. So that's how bare bones we were. And, you know, I edited and whatever, you know, we did all these things. But actually the fun thing that you guys wouldn't know from watching the movie is that we could not find someone and we could not get someone to make the prop books because we had to do 5 of them. No, I'm sorry, 9 of them. 9 of them. So when you're seeing in the movie, those are 9 different book props that we used. And they're all supposed to be, you know, mimicked as being the same thing, and the blood erases, whatever. But Adam and I actually did those ourselves because we had no choice but to do them ourselves. So we, you know, I painted them by hand, he weathered them, but that was how those got done because there's nobody else that did it. That's how bare bones we were on everything the whole time. You know, which created some stress, but it was fun. I mean, it was also rewarding in that sense.
To tell you the truth, the jacket that Jamie is actually wearing is my own jacket.
Yeah,
and,
that's Adam's jacket.
Yeah, so we shot it in, you know, in February, and it was cold, so that was my only jacket. So I had to get like a couple hoodies, you know, to bring to set. So
exactly.
That was about it.
Very bare bones on everything. You know, it's just what you have to do sometimes. But we, you know, we learned that, and there was no props department. There was a bin that had all the props in it, and we would just carry it from room to room.
Yeah.
Usually, I would do that honestly as director. I mean, just what you have to do. You know, so.
What do you got for us, Eiley?
I was wondering if you could talk about like the editing process. Like, how long did that kind of take you?
Oh yeah, so well, I guess what's weird about me or about us is over the course of time, I used to edit everything I did, but the first feature film we did, I went to an editor and I spent weeks and weeks and weeks with an editor, nice guy. But at the end of the day, it was too much work to drive to somebody, and it was really on his schedule, not my schedule, and it was difficult, and it didn't really work out. So I wound up editing myself. Now all of our movies, I guess. So this feature and the last one. But yeah, with this movie, I mean, I just sat in a room and it was quarantine. Everybody got quarantined, which nobody was expecting. And, you know, in all of my free time, I would just put together one scene at a time, which is really the only way to do it. I just sit, you know, I have my computer here, nothing fancy really. I have my computer here, and if there's more technical editing questions you have, I could answer them. But a lot of it's just too dorky probably to really bring up and talk about. But I'd be happy.
Nothing's too dorky.
Sure.
Okay.
So what did you use to edit?
Oh, I have Premiere CC.
Okay.
Yeah, which is great because it syncs the slates for you with one button press, and like that's like whoa, I can do that now. You know, like that's the school I was coming from.
Oh yeah, and with CC everything's connected. So if like you import like a PSD for something and edit in Photoshop, it like instantly updates and Premiere. Yeah,
right.
Love CC.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I love to say like we're on the cutting edge stuff, but we're really not. You know, a lot of the stuff that we're using is like I have like I think this was edited on 2018s or 2017s because I couldn't run it with all the footage we had, and it was 8K red footage, which was like, you know, a lot. So then we had to keep paring it down, and I was using proxies the whole time, meaning that basically, for maybe your audience might not know, it's just basically HD representations of those, you know, 8,000 pixel, way too big things. And the funny part is nowadays when you get into distribution, we're like, wait, we have 8,000 pixels of fun here, guys. It's going to be great. And you try to sell it to a distributor. They're like, no. We want it HD, 1080p. Don't mess with us. So we're like, okay, well, that's you know, we mess with these great lengths, but you know,
that's what they want.
That's what they want.
I have a props question. So drawing a comic strip, I always look for comedy in these things, and my big question was Wendy. She threw away a very perfect egg.
Yes.
In the trash, and couldn't she have scrambled it? Could she, maybe eat? How many eggs did you go through?
That's a That's a pertinent question. I would say
one.
I think we only went through maybe 2.
Yeah, 2.
Because when you're on that type of budget, you can't waste an egg because you got to feed a crew member.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But looking back on it, even with our last feature film, it had an egg in it that pretty much gets overcooked. So I don't know if that's maybe
trademark.
There you go. It's a trademark. Yeah. There's always an egg.
Yeah, no. In our subconscious, we just don't like eggs, I guess.
Yeah, we just
throw
them out.
So we just, we either burn them or
we burn them, or we just throw them out in our movies.
I thought maybe there was some foreshadowing of something dying, because
Yeah, no, I mean,
well, that's good. You know, she seems to be sick or something, which is played so well by Amy Carlson.
Well, she throws the egg on the picture of herself and her husband. You know, so that's the symbolism of what's going to happen.
Right, thank you. That's right. Yeah, we tried to put that in the garbage. See, that's when we were trying to be smart because we have no props team. Like, what would be in that garbage? Oh, probably the photo, which would be someone's job normally.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that scene. For the reason of the photos in there, that scene was so effective because again, it's the sound design as Leo mentioned, and yet you don't really see anything, but you hear it and you know something's there. And then when the photo falls, that's a good jump. And who came up with that scene? Which one of you two did, or did you guys both say, you know what, let's do something like that?
Well, I don't know.
No, I think we just both came up with it. I mean, a lot of things that happen in this movie, we just, he'll either shoot something to me and then I'll put my little thing on it, or vice versa.
Yeah,
I think it was really both of us to hear, the claw marks going up, up the ceiling, whatnot, and just follow down to the picture. And
I think I distinctly remember, like, it wasn't really even just specifically one person's idea. I remember one thing that inspired it, but I didn't quite think about it the way he did. So then it spun into that.
Yeah.
It was like The Wolves in the Walls, I think, was something I was thinking about a lot by Gaiman. And I think that was something, but it was not totally the basis of that idea. But, there was a lot of other stuff. Like one time we were thinking, like, we don't really have a scare here. We don't have anything going on here. And I turned to him and said, what can we do that you've never seen a horror movie before? Because he really knows. And he was like, all right, well, why doesn't she just burn her hand in a pan? Like, okay, well, where did that come from? Sure, let's do that. So, yeah, that was how we did a lot of things in this movie was, let's just keep honing it.
Well, you know what was awesome about the quote-unquote crack scene was if you guys had a bigger budget, you could have actually put a crack in or CGI it or something. But like you said earlier, the less you see, when I forget which horror film you mentioned that you don't see much and it's effective, and that's what that made it even better, I think, because we don't see the crack, we don't see what is happening to the house, and then you guys pull it off. And you have a good point about the hand scene too, because I mean I've seen plenty of things. There was a film last year called The Dark and the Wicked, excuse my Boston accent, and the woman chops her fingers off as she's cutting food, and we've seen that many times where people chop off their fingers or something, but you guys had a different idea, which I never thought of either, which is the hand in the pan. That was awesome, dude. And
that was him. Thank you. That was him, though. Really, 100%. He came out of nowhere with that. It's great. I think he just thinks about these things. It's good. I'm glad I wasn't thinking about that one. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying the thing with the egg that I kind of was really going into and really thinking about is in a lot of movies, it's a sign of fertility.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not a purity,
going on here.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's a lot of things also. There's a lot of good things about, I'll just say this generally speaking, about Amy Carlson that make those things work. And I think it's because of how classy of a lady she is. So a lot of those things you could read into as being highbrow, but I think it's also just the way she plays them because she's so good that you really believe everything she's doing and everything else. But that's an interesting point. Yeah, and I think she plays that scene in a way that, maybe there's parts of Wendy that we don't know. That's also a good point.
Let me ask you that because that's a good point. You're bringing up Wendy. Where did you find these actors? Because these people were solid. For people I've never heard of, these people were really damn good quality actors.
You ever watched Blue Bloods?
I've never seen any of it, dude. None of.
We used our we worked with Judy Henderson, who's our casting director, our casting agent, and she's worked with us in the past, and she was great with it. I mean, she told us, she gave us Mallory, Mia.
She gave us everybody.
She gave us everyone, and it was great.
She brought in A+ people, and the thing is, people don't really. I guess it's really tough when you're first starting off because they're like, all right, kid, what do you got? Like, I don't really have time for this. Now they have to take us a little bit more seriously. Not like that much, trust me, but at least they got to talk to us, a little bit. So at this point, that's just the way it is. But at this point, we were able to get a little bit of it can't, a little bit of a better cast to the point that, Amy was actually able to come in and like show us, what she could do, which was great. And that doesn't always happen with an actress of her caliber. And to me, I think he probably had the same feeling. As soon as she came in, it was like, wow, this woman is so beyond where I was thinking. Like, I didn't even know this was an option. So that's what Judy Henderson is so great for. And she's won an Emmy she does the show Homeland. She works with Showtime a lot. And now she does City on a Hill. But she's a fantastic casting director. And she just wanted to get us the best team. And she really has not done a horror movie before. And she doesn't even really watch them. So she was like, I'm going to get you dramatically the best team of people that you as a director could work with. And to me, that was great because that was really where my focus was, knowing that we had the horror handled. But yeah, Mallory came to us, she auditioned for it and she did a good job. I mean, all of them. I think the other interesting one was David Alan Basche, who plays Donald. He was interesting because he came in and he had done a lot of great work.
Yeah, we actually gave him the whole pale blue dot thing to start off with, and he did great with that. I mean, we walked out and said, you know what, this guy's really got.
I mean, he nailed it, and it was so interesting, and I guess that's how it happened. We just kind of put them together like that.
Yeah, and Mia's great. Mia Davis.
Mia Davis, we should definitely highlight Mia Davis, who was in Red Dead Redemption 2 as Tilly, and a lot of people know her from that, and she's become like hugely popular just from that. But as an actress, sort of untrained, on screen. But she walked in and was so charming because the thing with Nancy is that she had to be likable because she's really not part of this unit. And Mia Davis sold it like that. I mean, there was no questions asked. We liked her, and she only just walked in and smiled, and we liked her. So.
And Jack, we worked with Jack DeFalco before. We worked with him years ago when he was a little kid.
And now he's been in Tony Award-winning plays and crazy stuff. Broadway. I mean, he's been all over the place. So, I mean, in some ways they were untested, but in a lot of ways, every one of them was proven to a much greater degree than we expected. So I guess that's how it happened.
So I have an odd question. So in Jersey, you don't really need to notify that somebody died in a house before it's sold.
Good point.
I guess not. I mean, it's Jersey, so anything could happen.
Yeah, anything could happen, right?
Okay, because I just thought, if somebody died in a house and you go in and there's this demonic book, I with it,
Yeah, I think there's a statute of limitations, to be honest, because I think in Massachusetts, it's like 10 years or something. After 10 years, if the house has gone by 2-3 families, you don't have to say.
That house was really that creepy. That's the funny part. You guys don't even realize shooting.
I mean, hotels, and people are dying all the time. What are they going to do? Announce that your room, there's been 4 deaths over the past 100 years.
I'd like to just see the real estate agent in Jersey, like, oh, do you have anything to disclose? You ask a lot of questions, huh?
Forget about it.
Don't worry about what did or did not may have transpired here.
Hey, we're gonna put you in the swamps and sea caucus.
That's right.
Spawn X1 says the house was actually possibly haunted.
Oh, it was our friend Matt.
That's
okay. We should give shout out to Spawn X1. He did our behind the scenes in the movie. So he shot all that stuff for us. Okay, there you go.
So he's
he actually wrote that. He goes behind the scenes crew.
I know, right?
Yeah, you saw it there.
You didn't even have to give him praise. He gave it to himself.
Self-promoter.
A high school buddy of mine that stuck around Montclair. And he wanted to help out, and this was really his first film set he was ever on, and helping out, and he did a great job too. So that goes back to what we were saying, that we're really a bones crew, and most of the stuff we like to do ourselves. We don't really have really professional people we could hire and spend like $300 a day to do this stuff. But a lot of it was
friends and people that just want to be there. And a lot of the investors were also very hands-on. They wanted to be part of the experience.
Really.
And that was cool and unexpected.
What was Mike Wynn one of your investors? Because I seen that you worked with him in the past, probably, and you made him the demon.
Mike was a friend of ours who was an actor, and we just started putting him in YouTube videos.
Yeah, Star Wars videos.
We did a lot of Star Wars stuff with him, and we just thought he had that charming protagonist, Bruce Campbell vibe, where it's like, there's something about him that's kind of funny that you can relate to.
Yeah.
So we put him in a lot of stuff, and he wanted to do this. And actually, believe it or not, it was very, very hard to find somebody who was sort of tall who wanted to be suffocated in a mask. For 4 or 5 hours.
No, how tall is Mike? Because he seemed pretty tall.
He's pretty tall. We made him look taller for sure.
Actually, it came down at the last moment that one of the crew members had like these 8-inch platform heels in the back of his car. And so we were just figuring out a way of how can we make this guy taller, whatever. He's like, I got some 8-inch platform shoes. We're like, yeah, let's get those.
Let's use those.
How old is that guy? Did he used to go to Studio 54 or something?
No, he's our age.
Yeah, better age.
The funny thing is, I'll tell you something really on the inside, because this is probably something fun for filmmakers out there that are wondering, these guys don't make mistakes, and it turned out good. It's totally not true. There's one shot in the movie that is actually of Mike falling, but it worked so well that we used it. So there you go. That was a mistake that was actually used as part of the action. I guess I can't say where, otherwise it'll give something away, but that's, he fell. He didn't hurt himself, but, that's the things that happen when you put someone in a mask that can't breathe in platform shoes at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, these things happen.
Got a long way to go, too.
Yeah.
Eileen, did I see you raise your hand there?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
This is your opportunity to ask a question. Let's do it. Tim, I saw you raise your hand. What's up?
Oh, I was just going to ask if I could go to the bathroom. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
Yes, Tim, I say yes.
That's awesome.
What? Oh God, what was I going to ask? So maybe you already said it, but was there a person? The demon? Was there a person underneath that?
Yeah,
it was Mike Wynn.
Yeah.
What?
Pretty much,
Did we already talk about that?
That's what we were just talking about.
See, that I'm just checking to make sure everybody understood.
That's good. That was our friend that couldn't breathe and did us a favor, basically. Yeah.
Awesome.
No, but really, what it was our costume designer, did the whole shroud.
And she did a great job.
Very
wow, yeah, we should probably even talk about that. That was a whole experience into itself.
Yeah,
I mean,
the hands, the hands were done by Nicolette Talley, and and then we got I guess a mask, a full head mask.
Oh, we should shout out to the Horror Dome. It's a great group of people. Dome.
I think it's Dome.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess
but
it
up. They were great with it. Yeah.
They were really nice, and they said you can use our mask, and we actually kind of obscured it with the way the costume's designed, so you can't tell. But there is a face under there that's very scary that you really can't see. But it was one of these, Adam really was the one that conceived of I would say the majority of that demon's look. And a lot of it came out of Hellraiser too. I think Hellraiser was a prime. If you really look at the details in the costume, the riveting and the different elements of it are really medieval, almost taken gothic like that.
Who was the other the two of you that decided to use the demon's hand as the intro of the demon? Because that was a kind of cool way to bring the demon, aboard for us to see.
I think that was always in the script, so I couldn't even tell you where it came from exactly, but it was one of those things where, like Jaws, or like whatever movie you want to say, and Michael Myers, obviously, keeping everything faceless or identity, without identity, and those things are really the key. So I always knew, like, if you're gonna do this, that is the only way to do this. Don't mess around with it. So this demon can't show up until a certain point, and even then we can't see him yet, or whatever it is, we can't see it yet totally.
Right. And I think we wanted to stay, to the Lovecraftian thing where, fear of the unknown, so you don't really, we don't want to really show the demon, in the first 10 minutes of the film, because then you already know what it is. We like to leave it up to the, the imagination, kind of like a style that, people don't usually do now. Like, I could understand why, I'm going off topic, but some audiences, they want to see everything. But, there was a lot of good films where, you just left it up to the imagination. And I think for our first, horror film, we wanted to play a homage to, to all those films. And I think we made it really clear, to not, show much of the demon, not even the face. You get the hands, you get the whole shroud, but you never fully get the full presence of it.
Yeah, and that was also an interesting challenge as a director, because the problem with that is one of your characters can see the demon. So now that kind of creates its own set of challenges. So on my wavelength as director, I'm constantly operating on, okay, satisfy the needs of what we believe is good, but also I got to achieve this new idea, this concept, and it can very well go wrong. So the whole point of it was to try to have the three different perspectives at the same time. And I think, and I hope that would actually allow for audiences to watch it again, you know, so they're picking up on who's really keyed into what at what times, because we were really, really careful about that. Like, you know, this person can't hear what they're hearing. You know, the actors we're actually great at it, but, you know, we kept them on the pace with, you know, Nancy, you don't know what the hell's going on the whole movie. So just don't even go there until the end. So those things had to be done.
Yeah, see, that's something I was going to bring up about, you know, you have something like, you know, Jaws or Alien, you know, or, you know, some of these other
Alien.
Yeah, Alien was a big one.
Alien was a big one too.
You know, when you have like, you know, a lot of Lovecraftian things, like you don't ever get to see the creature and like don't ever describe it, because like somebody will look at it and instantly lose their mind. And I think with a horror movie audience, you know, kind of like what you were saying, like, oh, they want to see everything. But I am, you know, maybe I'm old school in the fact that, you know, I prefer to use my own imagination, because if you show me something, Bird Box is a perfect example. They had concept art for the thing that Sandra Bullock was supposed to see, and it was supposed to be like this weird baby looking monster, and like you'd look at that and like, that's ridiculous, I'm not scared of that, like, and it takes you out of the movie. If you're not afraid of the main villain, or like the main entity, whatever it happens to be, if it's not like, well, I think this is scary because I have, you know, arachnophobia, it's like, well, so
it's true. That was a huge, I mean, that's a huge thing no matter what, you know, is how do you deal with it? And, you know, if you can size it up in a fight, I mean, if you can square up with the thing, it ain't good.
Yeah.
So that was, we tried to make it larger than life and approach it that way and look at what things worked, you know, like the ring rates in Lord of the Rings was certainly one of the things I looked at, because I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. So that certainly was another jump point, even though those are even in broad daylight too. So that was another thing that worked. But yeah, we just try to always think about, you know, how can we achieve that, but still have these characters engage with it? You know, how does the sound of it work? You know, those things had to be really thought out. And
it's not blood and guts. I mean, it's, you know, it's not gory, I don't think. You know, it's more of just, you know, that haunted, you know, kind of ominous, you know, fear of the unknown.
Psychological horror.
Yeah.
It's better to have something that, you know, like Jameson was just saying, like, you know, I have a friend who, you know, big muscular guy, big strong guy. He's like, home invasion movies don't scare me, because if some guy breaks into my house, I'll snap him in half like a breadstick.
Yeah, we'll just square up with that guy.
Right, exactly. Toast.
Yeah. I mean, that was a huge challenge.
Well, yeah, because like, you know, we said psychological horror. The title, No Fear. Where did you get that title? Because that's a great title.
That was Adam Ambrosio. I'm not going to take credit for that for a second. That was him. So you want to explain that one?
No, yeah. I mean, I think it just popped into my head one day. I think it was just you know, it was just a name that I just thought of. I can't really remember. Maybe it was after a couple of beers or something. But I mean, it just really just, you know, I think it just came out of, I just came down the stairs one day and I said, why don't we do a movie called No Fear? And Jameson and somebody else were like, why do you want to call something like No Fear? Like, I'm like, they're like N-O-F-E-A-R. I'm like, no. It's K-N-O-W-F-E-A-R. Like, oh.
And that was great. It was great.
And so I guess it was just like a little play on words. And
yeah, I mean, it made 100% sense, because these people understand it and identify it.
What's the whole, you know, the senses, you know, if you could see it, you could hear it, you could speak it, then you should.
That's a good, because of the three monkey thing that you had there.
Yeah.
Right.
Knowing fear through this entity, you know, through, you know, by all the senses, and you truly know what fear is.
And also, I think one of the things that we were most focused on, or certainly I was as a director, was I think the scariest thing about the idea is that you're having an isolated experience.
Yeah.
And one of the scariest things in horror films is when the guy's alone. But it's not just that. They can be in a room together and having an isolated experience, because only one of them can hear it. You know,
Right.
only one of them can see it.
See it, right.
You know, so in a lot of ways, it was like, you know, it was double the horror because nobody could understand truly what you're going through when that's happening. And, you know, in a lot of ways that on a human level, there's something very unsettling about that, I think. And it was really about a family who can't communicate in some ways. You know,
What about the symbol? The symbol. Where do you get that symbol? That because it's not a pentagram, but it's still freaky, and especially, you know, when Jamie sees it on the wall in blood and all this other stuff. What is it? Where did you get that? Just made it up. Said, "Oh, this looks cool."
Yeah, I think Adam was really the thrust of that one as well. We talked a lot about like the Yellow King and those things.
Yeah, that's a great
We didn't
book.
want it to be like that. But we like that recurring motif in True Detective and in other things. And, you know,
you're talking about, that's right.
Yeah.
I was talking about the book that it supposedly goes back to, by Richard Chamberlain, I think.
Yeah, I've read.
Yeah.
And and that was one thing we explored as well. And we didn't want it to be like that, I guess. But at the same time, we wanted to look a little cosmic, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think we looked at, we did a lot of research, you know, just different ancient symbols, all that stuff. And I think what I did was I took like an open envelope and I just started drawing things that, you know, that would just, you know, were something different, something that, you know, hopefully didn't, you know, wasn't a real symbol that I would offend someone, you know, in any way possible.
You don't know.
Yeah, especially nowadays. Holy shit. That's too funny.
Hey, wait a second. So you just offended my whole family.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Like, at least 100 different symbols on the back of this open envelope. I'm like, Jameson, which one do you like? And I liked one, he liked a different one. I think the one we used was the one.
Oh, it might have been.
So we went back and forth with that for a little while. I think I was a little stubborn with that. And we chose Jameson's the one he liked, and when it came through, you know, it looked good, especially with the blood on the mirror, you know. It was something that we could easily draw, I think.
Yeah,
it wasn't too elaborate where, you know, if it got smudged or someone, you know, bumped into it or whatever, you know, we would have to just get it back.
I think it has an element of triangles as well, and I think that was another element that we all actually throughout the movie, even in terms of blocking, I was trying to constantly have the actors in triangles and deal with that because it's something I'd never done before, and it made sense for the movie, and you know. That was something that came in with the symbol, and you know, then it became the beginning title sequence, and you know, so all those things.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you guys made sure it wasn't part of some, you know, Norse rune or something, you know.
Yeah. As far as I know.
I like to say we did better research than that, but yeah, it doesn't look like anything, does it?
Right.
No one's offended yet.
No one's offended yet. We'll see. We'll get the mail about it. Yeah.
So my family was killed by triangles.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a derogatory symbol for goatee wearing people, Pat.
Yeah. So, you know, you just don't know. You just try something.
Yeah, I know, especially today. Oh God.
Looks good.
Yeah, I like the fact that it has like that element of. See, I took it as like some sort, because this is a demon, this demonic thing. I took it as like some sort of perversion of the Trinity, you know.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice call there, Pat. Yeah, like it.
Yeah.
Like it.
The element of threes came natural in the concept, and it's definitely that Christian imagery of that was important. And then, you know, the whole time we're kind of mocking it. I mean, you know, like, you know, it's not the way I would say it or even the way I approached it, but we're kind of just mocking it by having it be in threes the whole time, which is almost satanic. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much how it was approached.
I know we're coming close on time. Where'd the idea from the for her being a fake Ghostbuster or a ghost hunter? Play?
Oh well, I could talk about. This might jog his memory, but we were really inspired by the young girl from The Crow, and we kind of wanted to make a character like just like that. You know, it was like somebody who was really cool, who had sort of an element of, you know, those, you know, had a lot of those great necklaces and things on her. And it was like, what would that character be like? And we also put, you know, we gave her the necklace as well, and a lot of those different things. But yeah, I mean, it just made sense to have somebody there that was armed with knowledge. And it was cool to do it as a girl, and it was cool to do it as a girl that was like the girl in The Crow. So I guess that's kind of where we went with it.
Yeah, I mean, and also the characters are based off another film that I think most people
well, here we go.
would enjoy is a film called Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus was the primary.
I mean that was a movie that pretty much we based Jamie off of,
Jamie, Nancy, and Charlie.
And Charlie, yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie's going after the girl, and the young sister is like, "You have no chance, buddy." So.
Yeah, we just didn't have the time for the character, like the love triangle element or the love element. But otherwise, Hocus Pocus was huge. Yeah. Believe it or not, that was another one.
So I just want to say that I don't watch horror because I scare easily, and I thought it was really cool because I like the paranormal stuff. I like watching Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation and Paranormal Cotton Camera and all that stuff. So it had a good mixture of paranormal and a little more horror. I like the way that you kind of not hid the stabbing and all that stuff, but you couldn't really tell. Like you didn't have any up close camera stuff, like that, which I don't care for. I don't like the gore and stuff. So I think he did a good job with everything and bringing in the paranormal aspect into it. So, because like I said, Young Frankenstein, I draw the line because half of that movie I'm like this anyway. So.
Yeah, I want to concur. I want to concur with the Joneses there because I'm not really into like supernatural horror that much. I'm more into like sociopaths and that type of horror, thrillers, all that. And yet you guys made this one like you mentioned the Conjuring. I mean, you made it as scary as something like that. So you guys did a damn good job. And so someone who,
compliment. Yeah. So we thought about that movie. I definitely did. I'm sure he did as well. But I thought about that movie 300 times a day when making this.
Yeah. No, we just took all of our inspirations. All those movies we liked to, especially when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And just try to take a little bit here, and a little bit there.
Yeah, a lot from Halloween, a lot from horror movies, a lot from Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, I'm a huge student of Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, I'm obsessed with him. So my homage to that was, I guess, maybe in some ways we handled the horror. I think I was thinking about that, but also the one thing I said to Adam, I said, you got to let me put this in, is I really want to do a sequence that's like Rear Window. And that would be how I infrastructure the staircase scene in this movie. And he allowed me to do that. And so that worked kind of well because, we were able to study the things that worked from the past. And Alfred Hitchcock was definitely a huge influence on this movie, no doubt. And I think that was also why. But, in a lot of ways, Carpenter comes from Hitchcock. And, so all those things then make sense. How he handled his gore in Halloween is, the whole Jamie Lee Curtis connection and all those other things. It all comes from Hitchcock in a lot of ways. And I think that might be why, maybe some of the gore is the way it is. And we decided to handle it.
Especially with the earlier drafts of it. I mean, it probably was a bit more gory. I think, and we just knew that, we just didn't want to make it blood and guts. And, we could have, it would have been a different film. But I think we just knew in our guts that we wanted to stay to a little bit more reserved and just give more of the suspense and the horror nature of it.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, you guys mentioned Halloween by Carpenter. I mean, the gore in that really isn't that gory, and you guys,
yeah.
So you guys, did it right the way you wanted to do. That was the reason that film's great is because of the fear, and your film is great because of the fear, and that's what you guys did.
Thank you so much for saying. Yeah, we appreciate it. I mean, it really was a labor of love, and I'll tell you, it was not easy making this movie. So it's for our lovely new graduate up there too. It's definitely God bless you and Godspeed with all of it. But I'll tell you, it's definitely a tough business, and putting things like this together is no joke. And in a lot of ways, I think. The real reason I'm saying that is that we had an obligation to get it right because of so many different reasons. so many different reasons, investors and otherwise. So, it's stressful and it's hard. And, it's so great when you go on to something like this, we don't know what the audience reaction is yet. It's great to hear anybody enjoying it or having a good time at the end of the day. That's why we've killed ourselves for years trying to do this, so, that's really rewarding. And, we feel, thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah. So
any statement like that is nice. It's glad people like it. Yeah. People could have hated it. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah. No. This is a damn good film, dude. You never know what we're gonna review because I go in blind every time, and this one like blew me away. This is a damn good film.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it really came out of love.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And you got to thank this guy because there's no way I would have. Trust me, I would have never been near this at all unless it was for him. And it was really nice because he really gave me the love for the film. He really did.
And I think that's what kind of makes us able to do these films is that Nathan and I are, in a sense, two different people a lot of the times. And but that's cool because there are things that that he could fill that I can, and other things vice versa. So I think that's having a good friendship and a good collaboration. And also, just as stubborn as I am, to know when he's right, he is right, and vice versa. I mean, that's the kind of relationship and friendship you should have, with if you're going to have a creative partner or whatever, or a team, or especially a team.
Try to work with friends. I think that's a good thing. Try to work with friends, because this business is very tough. But if you have somebody by your side, like the way the boys did in Evil Dead. I think that was a really inspiring, but also like anyone could follow their story example. I don't know. Hopefully people talk about us, but I don't know. The point is that Robert Tapper, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell went on that journey, and those guys were friends and they did it. And their movie in some ways probably was a hell of a lot harder than ours because of the time and for how long they shot it for. I mean, even though I had to rush, it was only 18 days still. But it's a different thing. But that story is still the same for the same reason. Friendship, friendship really helps get you through these things because there's, you kind of feel like you have the whole world against you when you're doing something like this.
And that's a great analogy because all those guys, Tappert and Campbell and the Raimi brothers and all that, they're all buddies and they.
You can't do it otherwise because the problem is you don't have the trust. And every one of these scenes were storyboarded, planned with him looking at them. What do you want to do with this, and this? No, I think you're right about that. I trust you. Just do it that way. Okay. No, you know what? He has a great idea for a shot. There's a lot of, as a producer, there's a lot of shots in this movie that are just straight up his ideas. You know what I mean? A lot of the really great ones, like the blood dripping and all those things were him.
And to tell you the truth, it's not my job to do that by any means, but, Jameson gave me that was able to give me that because, I'm a big fan of horror, and so honestly, he could have said, what, let me take the reins on this, and rightfully so, because that's his domain of the project. Mine is paperwork and all that stuff, but no, he that's the friendship. He was able to do that, so I'm very fortunate, for him to be able to give me that little bit of.
His ideas are always great. I'll just say that. And also I should really say, and I think it's important because in a lot of ways, a director owes most of his thanks probably to two things. And it's number one, the cast. So thanks to our great cast, they did do a great job. And it was a little hellish making this movie, but also number two was the music score, and he did the music score in the movie. So, I mean, there wasn't anyone else. There's not a team of people. It's just Adam. I
was going to ask who did the music score. That's pretty awesome. You are John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Your own score, right?
That all the time. He really is.
Well, the thing goes back. It's like originally when we first met, I was only interested in music, big metalhead, and I like some classic stuff, 70s, even the 40s or whatever. So when we met up, he asked me if I, wanted to, do the music for one of his films. And I wasn't interested, I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to play in some dingy place and, get myself out there. But he's like, no, why don't you actually, start writing, for movies? And so that was the introduction. That's where it all started. And then, because I'm such a movie buff, he said, why don't you ever thought of like doing producing? And so I think, that's how it kind of started. So it was, the opportunity was, I was given to me, and I really fell in love with it. So doing music and, for films was my first passion, and then learning to produce, my films, it was just something even more, because it's like you want to be like a Swiss Army knife. You want to learn as much as you can.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
And it works for Film Valor, what we do, because we always try to preach. You could do your own movie with good quality stuff for a good budget. I mean, if Jameson had to go out and hire someone for editing, music, you're always a good amount of times you ask someone to write music for you. It's going to cost a lot of money,
and you probably might not get what you want.
Yeah,
to be
true.
honest with
I mean, if someone wants to do it for free, well, that's a different thing. But you still don't know what you're going to get, and so
producer composer is an incredible combination.
And so
it's it's not like I'm sitting there being like, oh no, I got to put this in now because the producer wants it. Not at all. He's like way ahead of me on the score. I would say most of the time Adam has the score, and I didn't even consider that it could be that way. So I'm looking at it, and it's like it's like my work, I guess. But when I see it with Adam's music, no joke, and I'm not just saying this because he's sitting right here. I would say it if he wasn't. It's like, wow, this is a whole different experience, and it really has always in my films created suspense. It's created the tension. I mean, in a lot of ways, the collaborations that a lot of directors have with composers, 100% him and me. I mean, he's the sound of every one of my films. And then it was our films. And so, so it really truly is. So he really is half of No Fear in that. I mean, even within the terms of the directing, he makes that work because of his score. And I think one of the best examples, without giving anything away, was even in the final shot of the movie, without me saying anything about it. I think when he came to that score, it was like, you know what? Everything about this, it's like almost timeless, that last one he does. And I'm like, you know what? That is exactly what that needed. And I have no idea where the hell he came up with that, because we certainly didn't talk about it. And so it's like, okay, yes, let's just do that. And I didn't question it for a second. Not for a second.
What about ADR? Because you had some outdoor scenes with Jamie, and it sounded perfect. So I was curious if you did some sort of trick, or were you able to do great ADR, or what?
No, funny enough, we were able to get away with this entire movie with no ADR at all.
Nice.
There's just 100%. Our sound guy, did a good job, and was in crazy situations. David Birdsey, we should shout out to him. And yeah, no ADR at all. We actually didn't do ADR in our last movie either. We try to stay away from it. You just never know.
Yeah.
Even in the final, well, okay, I won't say that, but there were some sequences that had fans and different things, and we actually just kept that audio because it sounded good. And the problem is with ADR, and you realize this as a director, when you're sitting in the room with them, you just don't have the right intent. The actors don't usually have the right intent, no matter, and they can be the best people, and it's just not the same thing. They're not in the moment.
Right.
So yeah, we try not to do that if we can help it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So how do you prevent like the wind from those outdoor scenes?
Oh well, very simply, we have a wind screen. A blimp. It's called a blimp, but it's just it's a very simple thing that wraps around the boom, the microphone, the shotgun microphone, and it just prevents anything from really getting in almost 100%. So that's one way.
We do what is it, room tone as well?
We do we do wild and we do room tone. Just to keep those things out. And actually, we didn't really have any audio. No, there was no real major audio issues on this one. In terms of coverage, there were some things we had to get later for shooting, but like we couldn't paint the blood on the walls, obviously, so we had to get do that later. We couldn't stab anyone, so we had to do that in close up later on.
Mm-hmm.
So those things were done. But yeah, no, audio wise, we didn't have to pick up anything really.
No, yeah.
So you're saying in Jersey, you guys just don't stab your actors and throw them in the
no, yeah, sometimes
sometimes,
yeah, depends on how they.
Well, we're right near the Passaic River, so they'll just keep on.
That's right.
There's enough room in the river.
Perfect access.
Yeah.
So yeah,
just hang out in net, catch a couple props for today.
Right. Yeah,
that's right. Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, we've dealt with those kinds of actors before too. You just want to kill them.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, no. We were pretty blessed on this cast on the whole. But sometimes you don't know. I think with a horror movie, it's different. I think everybody knows what they're getting into. Sometimes you get, I think there was a vibe of maybe getting people that didn't care about it being a horror movie, but I think we got people that cared about it being a horror movie. So that was,
and you had a smaller cast too. That probably helped, right? You didn't need to worry about extras or anything like that. I guess
that's true. Yeah, 100%. I mean, right? Yeah, there's no extras really at all. Yeah, one
extra.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our friend Tom.
Yeah.
Tom Coughlin. Shout out to Tom Coughlin.
Yeah, Tom Coughlin.
The one extra. That's right. He's out there somewhere. Yeah, but he's in all our movies.
So Spawn X1 was asking, and this actually could spawn, no pun intended, another question. He was asking sequel or prequel, but with your first horror movie under your belt, where do you go from here? Are you looking to expand on the story, or do you have other horror movies that you're thinking of doing?
Should we? Yeah, we can talk about this.
We can do that, yeah.
So we have an anthology that we're working on right now, actually, which we have a couple really great stories that we're really excited about, and we've been writing them in quarantine. I guess I can't really talk about the details of all of that right now, but it's the kind of thing we can shoot in the middle of this pandemic that would be safe. And we've actually casted the movie already, and it's been written, and it's a kind of going, I guess, it's ongoing. But some of them are Lovecraft related, and some of them are, different kinds of things. But I guess I'll say in some way, in a way, it is connected to this movie legitimately. And I guess that's about as much as I can say about that. But yeah, we're doing another horror. We even have another one written. That's another feature film.
Yeah.
That's another one even. But
no, we have some things lined up. But I think, as Jameson said, we have this anthology that we're going to work on, and we seem to be liking horror for this moment. Not saying that we're going to stay with it.
Yeah.
For the for a while,
I mean, we should give a shout out also too, and this would be a good, probably a learning thing, probably for also our friend here, is that a lot of distribution is very difficult. I mean, to get distribution in the first place, and I'm sure maybe you guys have experienced even in your own travels, but distribution's tough, and they don't do promotion on a lot of indie films. We were blessed that we went with Terror Films, and I'm not just saying this, trust me. These guys are really like the best we've ever worked with by far. And because a lot of distributors ignore your movie, they just put it on platforms and they don't promote it. So these guys have been amazing. I mean, from having a press agent to, like caring about the movie. I mean, they actually, that trailer is not our trailer. They made that trailer.
Yeah.
I didn't do that, and that's why it's even better that I didn't do it. But yeah, I mean, that's their trailer. That's their poster. Yeah. Distributors don't really do that, for those that don't know. And so these guys actually care about the movie. And it seemed natural, I think, to the both of us that we now have an outlet, or we have a place to bring horror movies. And it was like, okay, if these guys can do it and they're giving us this kind of shot, and maybe the audience responds, then this is probably a way to go. And we obviously, have a lot of passion for it, whether or not how people respond, we feel we can have something probably to offer.
Yeah, I can't speak for Terror Films, but I can see why they consider it a good project, because you've heard this from me about 20 times already in this past hour. It's a fucking good movie, dude. So they're going to promote it because it's good, because it's marketable. Believe me, this is a good film.
Thank you. They're pushing it, and that's really a blessing, because we've been doing this for a long time, even though we're young, I guess, but we've been doing it for a long while, and there are a lot of times where it just doesn't seem like it's going anywhere.
No, it was hard.
It's always been hard. It's never easy to do any of this stuff.
But they really helped out. I mean, there's been a couple of days where, we're saying, all right, so what do we have to do? We're saying, they're like, nothing, they're taking care of it.
And they really have taken care of it. And they're promoting it, they're doing everything they can do to get it out there. And I guess they don't do that on everything. They had a huge hit with Hell House.
That was a good film.
And we like that movie a lot too. Yeah. So actually, in our decision process, we had watched all these horror movies. So it was suddenly like, hey, these are the guys that did Hell House, actually made Hell House. So why wouldn't we go with them? They've actually had low budget success before in this space. And a lot of people talk that talk, but they haven't actually walked that walk. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, these guys have actually done it. They know what a hit looks like, or how to try to make something go.
Yeah.
They've been great. I mean, very responsive.
Joe Dane is a great guy.
Joe Dane, yeah.
And so are the guys at October Coast. So I mean,
awesome over there.
October Coast is great too. Yeah, you guys lucked out with Terror Films and October Coast. That was
100%.
Well done. Good.
Very blessed. Very, very blessed. I mean,
but you know what? The film's good. So it's gonna get quality people that want to, really promote it. So don't pat yourself on the back too. I'll tell you that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's again, all of it's a blessing. I mean, we feel that we're lucky that we were in this position, and we had this story. And again, it's like it's as coincidental or strange as a guy saying, if you guys happen to have a good horror movie written, I'm gonna put some money into that. It's like, what? I mean, that sounds. If we keep telling that story, people are gonna think we're.
And did you guys say that was like at a diner or something?
This is a friend that we knew. That was just a friend of ours.
Oh, okay.
And what happened was we sent. Adam and I had been making so many films. This is actually the set that we're on right now. Is the set for our show Film Valor on YouTube, which I guess is a small accidental plug. But yeah, this is the set for Film Valor, our show, which is where we just talk about how we make movies. But yeah, our friend basically saw. I think it was like my IMDb or our IMDb, because we had done a Star Wars fan film.
And he was crazy about it. So.
And we have done a lot.
Yeah, the one with Win, right?
Yeah. We did something that was like PUBG or Battle Royale meets Star Wars, and we did it for $0. And he really liked that, and he liked a lot of the other Star Wars stuff we were making. So he was like, you know what? If you guys have a good horror movie. And at that point, it was hysterical because we had been working on this thing for like 2 years, and we're not even ready to go out with it yet. But then he sat down with us, and he's like, you know what? No one else has put in for this movie yet. And I might be an idiot, but I've this is really the words he said. He's like, I think this is going to be cool as hell. I believe in you guys. And I've done worse things with money like this. So here you go. Boom. I was like, okay, well, that's what started us. And then it was a very sort of slow journey of like, okay, how do we get the rest of the money? Because that was really just the beginning.
Yeah.
But that was a huge turning point, because even for that amount, to have to do the rest of it was a lot easier, because, the bulk of it came just from somebody throwing in. It's like, that's the whole thing about financing. Film finance is another great lesson. You're never the guy that throws in first. So the problem is you got to find the guy who's going to throw in first. And that a lot of that was because he loved horror.
Yeah.
It had maybe it had less to do with us in that sense, but he loved horror.
And the thing is, I think he liked our work.
Our work. Yeah.
That's the thing. We've done some short films, and we had 2 feature films. So we had something to go off of, to present, to put something on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helped out. And then, of course, as with the Star Wars thing, that helped out.
Yeah.
And I think just we were all just fans of all the things. And
Adam, did he know that you knew of films such as obscure films like Dunwich Horror and things like that? Did he know that you're a huge horror fan, and so maybe that's why he had faith in you guys?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, really, I think this guy we would talk to. Actually, we worked with him. At that
axe place.
At that axe place when we were throwing axes.
Where the pale blue dot speech was given.
Oh yeah.
And so we were just good buddies at first, and then I usually don't like to talk about business with friends or anything like that, because it's I like to just chill.
Yeah.
But he heard that we were filmmakers. He's like, oh, let me see your stuff, and he just really loved it. And
he knew us for a long time too. Yeah. That's how little we actually did talk about it, because
we were good friends, even like for about a year, even before we even addressed it to him.
Yeah.
And when he saw our work, he talked about movies, of course. I mean, for me, Dunwich Horror was is one of those movies that not a lot of people know about, but for me, I'll always bring it out, and then I'll say it enough of times so somebody else could watch it, and then they could be like, okay, I can see what you're saying.
And I did like it. I loved it, actually. I thought it was fun. But I mean, also we did a movie called The Depths that won Best Feature Film at Manhattan Film Festival. And then that had Michael Rispoli in it from The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And like a lot of, it was also a very good cast that Judy put together. And that was a different movie because it was really a thriller. So he kind of also responded to that because Michael Rispoli was in Rounders, which is like one of his favorite movies.
That's a great film.
Yeah. So Michael was great, and that movie was, turned out well. And then we made our second one, which also, that one, again, Best Dramatic Feature Film at Manhattan Film Festival, which is weird. Another great lesson of indie filmmaking is we were turned down from like 30 film festivals on our first movie.
Yeah.
And the first one we got into, we won Best Film out of like 200 movies. But that's filmmaking. That is 100% filmmaking.
Yeah.
You just don't know. It's like a failure until it's a success. It's it's
right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
That's a great lesson for anyone trying to make movies. It's like, you know, I saw this corny quote, I guess, from an actor or something, but it's like, you don't know where you're going to be 6 months from now. You know, you could be very successful. You could have done something that's good. And, you know, with Adam and I think we've always found, like, if we just keep going and, you know, just keep trying to make movies, and, you know, maybe we'll have a crazy person who comes out of nowhere who says, I'll help you finance something. You know, you just don't know. And so a lot of filmmaking is try to write your scripts and put your things down, and you commit to it until you find other people who want to commit to it with you. Say, you know what, I recognize what you guys are doing, and there might just be a chance in hell that you guys are smart. So let's just try it. And that's like how those things happen. And it's taken many, many years for that to happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, 10 years, yeah, I guess, and, you know, and on. And we've done 50, 60 projects at this point, you know, commercials and everything.
Yeah.
We shot weddings. There was a large period of time where we shot weddings, and we own our own equipment.
So you do weddings.
I did weddings. I'm sorry, not him. That's right.
I don't do weddings.
I did weddings for a long time when I first started directing. I did that because there was nothing to shoot, and we had to make up the equipment costs. So that's, you know, we bought equipment and then said, oh my God, we got equipment. What are we going to do? So, you know, that's how a lot of our movies happen, because we have the equipment now, we have the resources, then we had the people, you know, so that's just slowly over the course of time, these things happen. And a lot of times it seems rather hopeless. Honestly, it really does. But, you know, if you're with friends, hopefully, and you're excited about ideas and you're excited about doing things, you know, somehow you find a way to keep doing it. And people care because you care.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing about filmmaking that's interesting.
Yeah, no, and I think especially with the horror community, there's a lot of loyalty within it. So
yeah,
I you know, a lot of hardcore fans out there, you know, who could say, you know, this movie was horrible, or, you know, this movie was bad, but then they could kind of find their way around it in about a year or two. You know, they're always wanting to see something new, and they're very supportive. And I think, you know, just like, you know, our investors who are just horror fans, you know, and the people who, you know, who liked it so far, you know, they're just horror fans, and that's all we are, you know, and that's how we made a movie. We just really wanted to see something we wanted to see.
Yeah, and they were excited by that, you know, like, you know, oh, you know, this is the way they did Evil Dead, was like a lot of things that we heard from people. It's like, you know what, maybe in a small town in New Jersey, these kids could do a good movie. And I think that worked for us. Maybe not like the way it would in Los Angeles or New York, where maybe they're expecting something else from you, I guess. But it worked in that way. And I think that's been a thing that's kind of worked for us throughout, you know, like maybe these kids could do it, you know, with that one special person. And then the work has, you know, hopefully demonstrated that, you know, over the course of time. And
well, a lot of it's come down to like one person, you know, kind of inspiring us. You know, at first it was the show, doing the Film Valor show. You know, we did this little
that was another interesting
thing. We talked
to
people about, you know, how, you know, we made our films and all that stuff. And we came out of the thing, what is it, meeting or whatever, and we're like, hey, you know, that was good. Like, we should actually do that. So we started doing the YouTube channel, and then we combined it with films, and then, you know.
Yeah, that was a fascinating process, because we really just started making stuff ourselves on YouTube. And it was like, let's try to commit to doing an episode of our own show every single week, but let's try to do it like the best we can. And we made 100 of these at this point. So it was, you know, and we couldn't do it while we were shooting. But the amazing thing that happened was we forced ourselves to be creative, and even when we didn't want to be. And somehow that led to like the most incredible developments in the company that we ever had, which was like the concept for our second film, Sunset, was a short film that we did on Film Valor. And, you know, a lot of the, you know, mutual understanding of the way things happen between the two of us and how we produce came from Film Valor. You know, like we said, that investor came from Film Valor. We actually got invited to speak at Sundance Film Festival on a crazy panel, but they wanted us to sponsor, which was wild, but that was because of Film Valor. And there are people that I've met who actually know me from Film Valor, which is weird, because it's like, it ain't that big, but somehow local to this local filmmaker was like, oh man, I know you from Film Valor. Yeah. It's just like weird, but yeah, that's, you know, you just don't know. And that really started as, we have nowheres to go right now. We have nowheres to, and not, I mean, during this period, but we have nowheres to go in our development. So like, what are we going to do? And that was Adam saying, you know, let's try to do this, and let's just try something, you know? And I think, again, it's like a lot of failure leads to some level of success. If you keep that same enthusiasm, right? That's the statement. You know, and I think that's exactly what we've always done. We've just been enthusiastic about, like, you know what, maybe that didn't work out. Let's try it like this.
Well, I know we ran past time, so I apologize for that. So we're going to wrap things up. And I want to let everybody know we are talking about the movie No Fear, and we have a bunch of information in the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. And, it comes out March 12th, so we urge you to definitely check it out. We loved it, and we think you will too. So where do you guys like people interacting with you on social media?
Film Valor on YouTube is probably the biggest thing. If they want to see about this movie, they should go to No Fear Movie on Facebook, which is a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think I'm pretty sure I have that in the show notes. And our special film guests, Tim and I.
Congrats.
Yes.
Good luck to you. Break a leg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram, Eiley Jones Film. Links to my YouTube on there as well.
Okay, and Tim, I can't remember what do you do now?
I can't decide. I don't know if it's official egg poacher or I draw a comic strip called Sour Grapes, and you can go to my website, sourgrapescomic.com, and everything's there. It's in a bunch of newspapers, and it's all the kinds of fun stuff on my website. So go on there, sourgrapescomic.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Sour Grapes 2017, and Twitter is Sour Grapes Comic. And you guys, congratulations on this. I think it was great. And we're both fans, and we're both going to check out Film Valor or come on there and, be stupidly fun. So
that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Philip?
Yes, folks can follow me at our darkdiscussions.com. Dark actually has an R in it. That's my Boston accent. And it's basically all news network. It's Dark Discussions News Network, where, for example, yesterday we had a release notice for this film here, No Fear. So if you're interested in genre news, columns, reviews, and there's over 30 podcasts, darkdiscussions.com, and you can also follow us on Dark Discussions Podcast Facebook group.
Okay. Patsy.
Well, you can follow me pretty much everywhere on social media by looking up Throwdown Thursday. You can find us throwdownthursdaypodcast.com. You can find us Throwdown Thursday podcast on YouTube, which is our umbrella for all the different shows that we do. The Shark Bites show, the Loudest Sports show, which airs every Friday on both YouTube and Spotify. And right now on the Loudest Sports show, we have a promotion that we're running right now where for folks who are watching at home, we are raffling off this autographed Bill Belichick Patriots mini helmet.
Awesome.
It is $10 a spot, and we are using the proceeds to help benefit the Strong-Willed Sports Memorabilia Group. We had one of the founders, Craig Allen, on last week. He's discussing the whole mission of their group, which is to fight pediatric cancer. And who doesn't want to fight pediatric cancer? We are helping raise money to sponsor their Pan Mass Challenge bike ride that they did not get to do last year, but they are going to be doing again this year. If you are not familiar with it, I think it's a 193-mile bike ride that starts in like Framingham and ends in Provincetown and goes the whole length of Massachusetts. And we are raising money for that. We're going to be adding a couple of prizes into that, including no one knows about this yet, but I am announcing it right now. We are going to be adding in. So if you don't win the Belichick helmet, you will still have the opportunity to win a basketball signed by Magic Johnson. So even if you are not a fan of the name that I'm sure folks are aware of, and again, it's $10 a spot to get in. We're going to be running some other contests as well. I do a lot of different memorabilia giveaways, various times during the week. We've given away Replica helmets. We just did a Doug Flutie nice Eclipse helmet the other night. We've done hockey jerseys, football jerseys, mini football helmets. So there's a lot of stuff that goes out to folks, and we are just we're trying to raise more money for the kids and do what we can. So if you have a chance, head on over to the Loudest Sports Show Facebook group. All the details are there. We just hit our 200th member earlier today, and to give you an idea of how popular this Belichick contest has been, we had 137 members on Friday.
Oh wow!
So that's really well. So we want to. We have pledged a minimum of $250. We have that already. I want to add on that. I want to keep building on that. I'd like to at least double it. So, take a chance. Even if you don't win the helmet or the basketball, you've already won because you're helping fight pediatric cancer. So that's where you can find us the next couple of weeks. That's what we're going to be doing.
Awesome. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. But more importantly, follow these awesome people. Check the show notes down below or up above. And I run a little thing called the Dorkening Podcast Network. Over 30 shows on a network, which is absolutely insane. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. Check out No Fear, coming out March 12th. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.